Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu einem kleinen Ausflug in die Demo-Welt. Ich bin Kerstin von Data Disrupted und ich war zu Gast auf einer IT-Press-Tour und hatte dort die Gelegenheit, die neue Developer-Plattform von HYCU zu sehen. Und ja, der Subaya, das ist der Product Manager von HYCU, hat uns das sehr schön erklärt und demonstriert. Und die Demo würde ich euch jetzt gern zeigen. Viel Spaß!
Are fully aware of HYCU and our development methodology. So as Simon said, we built an assistant which actually has all of the intelligence we talked about, right? Which we trained it on all of the models here. What we did was, here's an assistant here. I hope you guys can see the thing. It's a small type font there. You guys can see fully? No? Okay, I'll probably send you the recording too. The whole idea is that it is leveraging the Anthropic information and your HYCU information, and it's telling you exactly the step-by-step instruction on how to build the module for HYCU, right? That's what it does, first thing. That's the first. Go ahead.
Like the user get.
Sorry?
Like the user get. This step is like reading the user get.
That's right, exactly. It's a little more than user because it's synthesized for your information, but you're right, it's exactly, it gives you step-by-step instruction. You're absolutely right, yes. So that's the first step. The first thing, one thing we did was like, you know what? We want our entire goal, as you guys know, HYCU's philosophy.
I just pause quickly for a second there. But that's just a bot, right?
Yes.
And as I said before, bury the bot. The bot is just a bot. Anybody can build it, right? The real value in what we're about to show you is how we take this to the next level. Samaya?
Absolutely. Simon, I'll go through this quickly. So the key thing is that we wanted to make sure our entire goal in HYCU's philosophy is that how could you make the customer's life simple, partner's life simple, right? Even the development thing, we want to make it part of the service itself. All a partner has to do is sign up for the service. It's a standard thing. You sign that particular one, sign it up. As soon as you sign up, you just come, you actually sign up to it's a very simple thing. You can do it within minutes. It's there. They log into the infrastructure. And actually, as you can see, for people who sign up for development, it could be a partner, it could be a customer. Our cloud infrastructure is right there, right? It's built in the system. Once that's done, sure. We'll probably do that. Tell me, okay? So once it's there, the key thing is that, if you are a module developer, if you're a customer, let's say you have your own custom application, you want to build it, right? The first thing is you got to tell what it is. So it's right there. There's a simple plus. You just say what you want to do. You add your information about your module you're trying to create. In this case, it's a demo, so you're just going to call it the demo module. It is there. And as soon as you do, all you have to do is say create. The first thing we do, okay, this is a real infrastructure running and protecting customers and application, right? So it obviously has to have code. So what we do to make the entire experience simple is create the entire infrastructure for your module, create the shell, all that stuff, and give it to you, right? The developer first. That's there. So we just told them exactly what's the Git. We use Git. It's the most popular development. I'm sure you probably hear all the time. It's the most popular one. The next thing we did was, okay, so now, how do you take it to the next step for them? In a good development practice, as you guys know, it's not writing something, throw it over the wire and run, because the thing is you're playing with customers' data, right, people's data. So you want to make sure to build it, test it initially, what they call unit testing, then to put it to production, first your full run in your trial environment, and then take it to production. There's steps you got to do, right? We wanted to make even that experience simple. That's why we said, instead of telling, oh my God, you got to find a server, run all that, I said, oh, that's complicated for customers. How do you simplify it? That's why we took some of the technologies available in this and created what we call the cloud workstation. This is actually one of Google's tools, but we have customized it for HYCU specifically. What we have done here is that it gives you a full infrastructure to run, test, build, test, and then deploy your infrastructure right there, right? So this is the whole thing here. So all you have to do is, now we gave you the code URL, put it in, it's going to create the URL, it's going to create your entire infrastructure ready for you first. There is your code right there. This is your shell code. It gives you all of that stuff pre-packaged, ready to go. It's a shell. It's we have not yet used the AI there. I'll show you some of the stuff there. So the first thing is that you got to create your initial infrastructure. So what you can do is that, as you can see, what we wanted to do is that, as I said, to run an application, what do you have to do? You have your web server, you guys know the infrastructure, the entire stack you got to have to test, right? So you're preparing it. This is where you see this simple command there. You can run this command, and it'll actually create your entire your development infrastructure first. That's what it's going to do right now. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip through quickly. See, all it's going to take that thing and then run it within your laptop. You can actually just have all you need is your laptop, run it, and then you'll be able to create it, right? And it's going to run through, create your entire infrastructure right in your laptop. It's doing it, as you can see, it's using a standard bit, all that stuff. It's deploying right now, right? Once it's done, now the question comes down to, this is a real world thing. It's actually a full capture of our thing there. The next thing, which is, it's just not about the build, it's about testing too, right? So what we do, you can see this one. We also give you a local test infrastructure. We also want to make sure it's so that you can test it before you go to take it to production. So that's there for this one. Again, for testing, you can actually see, we can actually say what's your Linux or Windows, set up your test infrastructure, and it's going to do that for you.
And the test data is the original data from the test?
Yes, it'll actually show you, exactly. You can actually do that thing. We'll give you how to show that particular one, absolutely, yes. So, I'll show you exactly how it actually touches the customer service too for now. So, the first thing in this world I'll tell you is that in HYCU world, the way we have built this platform, built on one of this whole thing, sometime when I go to show you, people might think, oh, why can't people use ChatGPT to write code? That's a natural inclination. People might think, oh, ChatGPT can write code. The big thing is that you're talking about companies' enterprise data protection. ChatGPT can write your script. Absolutely can do a fantastic job. The questions to build an enterprise class thing where you can orchestrate hundreds of these services, back it up, produce it, report it, all that stuff, it's a much more complicated. That's where the way we built our platform is so critical. We built the platform in such a way that a module can be added on the fly without having to bring the service down, dynamically added. It is elastically scalable. You can add 100 of these services. Customer doesn't do sizing, because some people say, I got to do sizing. Once you do sizing, it's not a SaaS service, right? This is a SaaS service. It's a true elastically scalable SaaS service. We have customers, I'll tell you, they have tens of services overnight they turned on. People worry, can it scale? I said, it's an elastic service. What's the problem? It can do that. That's the model here. Again, there are 3 things a module developer has to do. What is that? The first one is what we call the root, essentially what's called the list function, which is it has to understand what's the structure of your SaaS. As you could imagine, your Salesforce is different than your Box is different than your Dropbox is different than your Jira. Everything has a different structure, right? That's the thing. That's what is called the root. I'll show you that. The next thing is to back up, right? The third thing is to recover. Again, one of HYCU's fundamental value is just the backup itself is an essential thing. The biggest thing for customers is recoverability. Again, recoverability, granular recovery is the big thing, and that is something we can do for any of these SaaS services. That's something, right? So, I'll just start with what is it to root. This is something, a sample code here. Let's go to our AI-enriched application. The first thing is that we again bring in our chatbot, as I know it's called, but no, this is actually not the standard one. This is more of an intelligent thing where it has been enriched with additional development methodology here. So this is actually, it knows what is it to build that, right? So it walks you through, to your point, it tells you what is the resource there. If you want to say, oh no, the first thing we are going to do is that I'll show you what is it.
Sorry, so let me just add there. So this is why we say beyond the bot. Yeah. Because while bots typically are like maps, a lot of these other competitors that are using these things to show you around the website or give you a product tour, we've enriched this to the point, we've enriched the Anthropic Claude 2 model to the point where we can actually use this now to aid in the low-code development of these integrations. And that's what you're seeing right here.
Absolutely, Sam. Just do. So what we're going to show is that it's going to show you something there. The key thing here is that, in the interest of time, and it's probably hard for you to see, the first thing I'm going to do is that, what it's going to do right now is that we want to build, sorry, I just probably skipped too fast. Okay, sorry, it's there. So the thing I want to do is build an application. You guys know Atlassian Bitbucket? Atlassian has a service called Bitbucket. That's their code repository. It's equivalent to, if you guys know the all the GitHub and GitLab's equivalent of that particular one, right? Customers have to protect it because that's where the core data is. A simple thing, we said, hey, can you actually write me the code to tell me the structure of that particular thing. That's what it's seeing. You can see here, it's a real code. It generated because we have educated enough. It understands what HYCU requires to be able to take the information and present it there. That's what it did here, right? That's the first step. It's giving you that. Now, it gave you the whole code there. So what you can do, take it, you're copying the code. Right now, it's copying the code, and you're going to just paste it in the UI right there, in your development environment, right? If people are wondering what is that am I showing here, this is like any development environment. We are using one of the development tools. You guys are familiar with things like called VS Code. This is Microsoft's tool. People can use Eclipse, any tool. It doesn't matter what tool they can use here, but they can actually build on top of it. Please go ahead, you have a question.
So you still need to do the copy and paste manually.
That's today. As Simon said, if that is, yes, that is something there. So one of the things is that this is an ongoing effort in that particular one, absolutely there. So this is a constant thing as how do we get more and more in this one. But that is true. Today that is very true.
We'll have co-pilot next year.
Got it. So this is, again, it's a real thing where it actually tells you exactly what HYCU requires, and it's there, right? You can actually tune it as if you want, as per that particular one. So now the question is also, the thing is that every application, as you could imagine, has some native functionality. Every application has its own APIs, right? You have multiple models. You can give us the API, and we can even write your code for that particular one. If your API is not public, then you can give us the API. If the API is public, the system will automatically know, and it can capture that particular one. That is something there. So it's getting your Bitbucket thing specific, much more Bitbucket specific information. It actually captures it, and now we have the code there. So what the next thing, what you have to do, you got to test it, right? Right in the UI, right in the code, you can actually see the send, because this is a local testing, what we call unit testing, right? You can actually do that. Right there you can see, you can actually test it, and this is, you ask the question, does it actually find the real? As you can see here, it found the customer's real projects. It is actually going and testing checking out the real API. Before you even publish, you can locally test it here. We made it simple. So that's there. Now you can take this information, change your version number if that's what you want to do. And the key thing here is that how do you test it in a real world environment, right? You can actually commit and publish right from the tool. We made it even simple, so it's not just created. You can say, hey, push, commit, give it a name, sync it. It's doing it right there, and you're going to have it right in the UI. Let's go to the HYCU UI. As you can see for this one, sorry, I'm just pushing it here.
Even accept the orthograph errors?
Sorry, you can tell me again, sorry?
Back 2 seconds.
Yeah. Which one? Which one you're checking? Which one?
Back 2 seconds. Or 2-3 seconds. I don't know where you put something here.
Oh yeah, I'll show you. Whatever. Yeah.
Before this one. Look, there is an error here.
Spelling typo. Yeah, typo there.
So is it fake or real?
Because it's a real thing.
Because implementation.
No, see, he's just writing a name. He's giving it a name, that's all. All it says is, what's the name I'm writing? That's all. It's a name you want. You can call it, for example, you can say Philippe's Publishing. You can call that. This is purely for your, typically this is probably for you guys who are not very, from a development perspective, every time you check in some code, when you commit something to the infrastructure, you give it saying some marker. These are nothing but just markers, which says, you know what? I'll probably at the end of the day, if you guys want, I'll show you a real instance which is there.
So people put real errors in their label.
So this is just a label for what you want to call it in that particular one. Okay, that's what you want to do. So.
Did I get that right? So with HYCU, I can analyze my infrastructure. You find all the SaaS things and containers and services I run in my environment. And then with this platform, you create automatically the code I need to add to my playbook to protect and recover in case of down platform.
That's right.
I do not have to because the AI knows what HYCU needs from the service to get backed and recovered.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yes. So this provides all of the infrastructure. As always, we want people to test it. The reason there's a human involved, this is going to give you the code. You want to test it. That's why we give you every step of the way. You can validate it and then publish. Exactly. That's the whole idea. So how do you
I only have to adjust the variables from my specific environment.
Exactly.
This is something I still have to do.
Totally. On that
Okay, excellent.
And if you have your own custom applications, obviously we need your APIs for your custom because it's your application. You got to provide. That is something you got to provide for it. Yes.
It's incredible.
Yep. So that's what this actually does.
And you also generate individual manuals on demand, localized.
Actually, it's not that far from that, I should tell you.
Yeah, that would be a great feature as well.
Absolutely. So, sorry, Simon, you wanted to say something, Simon?
No, keep going.
Thank you. So yes, we had a typo there. You caught it right. We are showing you the real world thing, which is actually there. As you can probably see, it is what it's doing here is that if you go to our HYCU infrastructure, because you published it now, you can actually run it, and you can see this is version 1, and he's saying, hey, let's actually look at it. You want to actually push it, and you can update it to actually see what the thing is, and then we had to call version 4.004, we called it, and to actually make sure it's there, and you can see it did actually update it, because on the fly, you can actually do that. And so this is something, the key thing here is that you have to add the source, right? One is writing the module. The other one is, for example, a customer could have multiple of the same application running, right? You got to connect to the application to actually get the information. That's what we call a source. Every application is a source, and that's what you're adding here. So we connect to a SaaS application. You'll be able to say, here's a SaaS, give it a name. You're doing a test infrastructure thing here. You actually provide it, and then you are actually giving the sample, as you can just imagine. It's one of our apps. It's there, and that's something we do, right? And what it does is that, again, this is so far all we have done is listed the structure. You can actually do that and see the entire, what application the customer actually has so far, the listing, right? The key thing I'll probably go. Now, the key thing, what I showed you was initially only the structure of the application. The next thing is how do you back up the application? So let me actually show you. Now we are saying, hey, you showed me, can you tell me how to back up this application, right? So here's what we are talking about is Bitbucket. All you're saying, can you create me the Python code for Bitbucket? Because that's what we're using here. And it's going to create you a Python code for Bitbucket. It is going to tell you. Initially, it'll give you the shell, and then it'll tell you what to fill in each one of them. You ask it to write each of the parts of the shell. It writes it for you. And then you take it, and then this actually tells you every step of the way, every instruction, because we have trained it over time.
So doing things with this kind of assistance change the validation process. You have to put more, let's say, effort on the validation of what it's generated versus the time you spend on the development aspect. Because during the time you develop, you validate at the same time. Now, there is a lot of things that is already generated, but you have to...
That's a good, the one thing which I think probably doesn't probably highlight for you, it's a great question, Philip. Essentially what happens is that, the entire process is a low-code development methodology, as you know, right? The key thing what we want to do is that people not to have to worry about HYCU as much as possible. Just tell us what you want to do, and we'll do all the grunt work for you so that it becomes simple. That's what we are trying. The whole thing, when we showed you the development environment to make it test, that's exactly what we want. We don't want people to have to worry about, did I do that, did I do this, right? Test every one of them, to your point. Your real-world infrastructure, connect it to your real-world infrastructure. Did it really show me everything? Okay, you get comfortable. You don't have to look at code anymore because it gave you the right information, right? That is where we are adding it. And the good thing about the system has been trained so that you can automatically add all the error logic too. For example, a big thing about resilience, because systems do fail, there are times you connect and it doesn't respond. You can be able to add all of that stuff here. That's the intelligence built in the system here. So
the simplest way I would put it, Philippe, is just that the way we've architected the platform, it means that the integration you're actually writing is very restricted in a lot of different aspects. The power is really coming from the overall platform itself, which means that our ability to review it is much less than if we were building a full end-to-end product for this, for example. And I think the way we structure the low-code development process makes that review cycle very, very quick.
Let me add to what Simon was saying, which is, I think, add additional information to what Simon was saying. The key thing is that a big thing is when you add so many different applications, people worry, hey, what happens if this application dies? Does it bring my entire service down? That's a fair concern, right? Because you have so many of these things. That's where what Simon said is very critical, because the way we do it is that everything is isolated. Just because one guy dying or one application, even your test infrastructure messes it up, let's say it does it, none of the other services are, because everything is clearly isolated. That's the one part of security. That's one part of security. The other thing we do, to Simon's point here, is around the data security, because we are so paranoid, sometimes I would say not paranoid to the point of say data security. Everything is completely isolated. A single service cannot touch some other service's data or any other infrastructure, right? Everybody is isolated to their box. So what happens if an application developer does a bad thing and writes some bad code? No problem. He can be in his own world and do all his bad stuff, but it's only within the container. You can't really touch anything else. That is something, the power of the platform which is there. Yeah? Make sense so far? I know I talk fast. I want to make sure I'm coming across. So this is again, we talked about the backup aspect. It's there. You can take it and again apply to the same backup infrastructure. It's as simple as I said. There are three things. Tell us your structure. Tell us to backup. Tell us how to actually do this one here. Here's your backup thing. It's what we call the handle backup. Its name is very simple. All you do is paste it and then tell us what you want to do in this particular case. Sorry, I just skipped to the backup of the thing here. Okay, so essentially I go to test it out here. Okay, so I'm just going to, just skipping through quickly. We talked about the Python code. Sorry, I just ran through very, very quickly here. Adding the code here, specific one. I can actually show you guys the real in action if you guys are interested after this stuff. This is actually, I have the R cloud infrastructure there. So two of them here. We actually stored the backup. The thing is that how could you actually do in terms of recovery, right? This is not just the backup, which is actually the recovery. As I said, the restore is probably the more critical part, because that's where at the end of the day, the only reason you're backing up. You can actually ask it to tell you all the steps for recovery, and it's there, and it's telling you what the infrastructure is. And you can actually do that. And it's again, as I said, we have the restore function. It's very clean. All you have to do that and tell us your code, and it actually will tell you the code for Bitbucket recovery. And we are changing the version number because we are again pushing it. You can probably see it there. And when I do that, this time around the commit, as you can probably see, I hope he typed the spelling right this time around, but he's doing the next round push, which is there from a create scenario. And what he's going to do is that do a refresh of the infrastructure, take the real live code, and it's going to do, and he can actually even restore on this particular one. And to make it simple, this is just the first level. He actually showed you from a Bitbucket project.
So this is Python with JSON?
Yeah, yes. Everything in internal communication is all around JSON. That's a standard thing which we actually talk about.
If Python prefers or wish to replace Python with something else?
So we support lots of different development. We have partners writing in Java, and our most preferred ones are Python and Java, let's say. Python is the most popular one, as you can imagine. We also have Java, which people actually do. Absolutely can. And one of our partners is working on .NET.
Tobias, I'm sorry not to interrupt. It occurs to me, though, that as we go through this, I think you made a very salient point earlier that, you can't just do this in GPT. But I think there's an even bigger point to be made about why we selected Anthropic to partner with. I actually went and saw the folks from Anthropic and talked, and I was listening to them, and what really sort of reached me was this idea that they left OpenAI to start their own AI business, which was dedicated, believe it or not, to building a safer world for artificial intelligence. So the fact that we are in HYCU are building a safer world through data protection, and they were focused on making AI safer, I thought was a natural sort of point. And Sabai and I sat down and talked about Claude, their model, and we started looking at it. And I said, obviously we're not just going to partner with somebody because they have the same vision as us. It's nice. And Sabai came back and he said, no. The amazing thing about Anthropic is they really do, they're a perfect model for us to leverage, because if we enrich it, it will actually speed up development time and in a way that none of the other models really could compare with. So Sabai, maybe you want to just comment briefly on why Anthropic, from an engineering perspective.
Totally. So one of the things, as you guys know, a big thing about AI, people always worry is, does it hallucinate, right? The big one is, does it actually imagine stuff and tell you about stuff which is there? The good thing about Anthropic is that it's much more control. It doesn't actually, they try to add enough safety in that particular one. That's something there. They've added the intelligence in that particular, that's there. The second part is that Anthropic is very, very concise in how it does the thing. Both in the code and in description, it does a good job. So those are some of the reasons why we decided. And the other thing is, as you guys know, in the world of AI, they have a lot of these benchmarks which say, hey, how good is it in coding and things like that. When we looked at some of the benchmarks, they have one of the highest in the development infrastructure. That's the reason, please. And there are sure more. Go ahead, please.
Do you know if Anthropic is talking to Grok to speed up their LLM?
That's something which I do not know the second level of detail. Sorry? Yes.
I would ask them because Grok would speed up Anthropic and Claude by about 3 or 4 times.
Wow. We would love to actually learn that particular one. We'll definitely bring it up with them. Definitely. Thank you. That's a good one. So that's the reason, Simon, I hope I added to what you were saying regarding
Yeah, that was great. Thanks, Mike.
So that's a quick rundown on what we can do today, just so that if it's there, if you guys wanted to show it, we can actually go much further about how it's doing it. So it can show it, and it can actually show real world, automate the entire recovery process for people. So that's a quick rundown on the demo.
Ja, vielen Dank, Subaya. Sehr beeindruckende Demo, schönes Beispiel für eine wirklich praktische Anwendung von Generative AI und gerade vor dem Hintergrund Fachkräftemangel oder Junior Coder, Junior Developer, finde ich es eigentlich eine schöne Sache, sich da die Arbeit ein bisschen zu erleichtern, zumal HYCU weiß, was sie für ihre Plattform brauchen, das dann in Integrationen für Cloud-Backups oder Software-as-a-Service-Backups zu nutzen, finde ich echt eine coole Geschichte. Ja, und an der Stelle nochmal der Hinweis, ne, Cloud Software as a Service sorgen zwar für Verfügbarkeit eurer Daten, aber nicht für deren Sicherheit. Dafür seid ihr ganz alleine verantwortlich und Tools wie HYCU machen es euch nun wirklich einfach, eure Daten auch da zu backuppen, zu sichern und eben für einen Notfall dann auch parat zu haben, damit die Wiederherstellung klappt. Und Übungen nicht vergessen. Auch dieser Hinweis, ganz wichtig, wird in den Strategien öfter mal vergessen. Ja, vielen Dank, HYCU. Das war eine Demo im Rahmen der IT Press Tour. Ich bin Kerstin von Data Disrupted und ja, bis demnächst in diesem Theater.